Hello everyone, and welcome to the second Nebulous fleet command video I've made. To date, mark the date, we're on version 0.107. This is a video that a few people said they'd like to see of basically how the fleet editor works, i.e. building your own types of ship for different roles. So I'm just going to go through the basics. What I'm going to build is nothing that's actually going to be viable in any kind of skirmish probably or multiplayer battle, but you'll get a feel for how it works. It's pretty simple. Oh, you may hear cats in the background in this video, I do apologise. Fleet editor. So we hop here. By default, it usually just gives you a range class frigate, but we're not going to do that. We're going to pick something a bit more mid-range just to give an idea of a better use of all of these stats on the right. So if you ever want to add a new ship to your fleet, which is always arrayed up here, you just click the plus, and you can use a template and build any from any previous ships that you have already made. But in this case, obviously, we're just going to go for one blank hull, and that's where you get a list of all the different vessels, from the lowly Sprinter Corvette right up to the mighty Solomon battleship. I'm going to pick a Keystone Destroyer, though, because it's roughly in the same area between the Vauxhall and the basically a light cruiser and frigate, so we'll go with this. It automatically names it. I'll show you a bit about how the naming thing works near the end. So this is currently the critical rocket ship Thug, DD773. Now, if you ever want to get rid of a ship, you just click the X there, and then it will just default this as your first vessel in your fleet. And as you can see, you get this kind of cross-section where you can see all of the compartments inside. Any that are orange currently have an item inside them, any that are grey are ones that haven't yet to be used. So you get an idea of what your vessel will look like front to back, what the interior will be. And by default, the ship has a points cost, which will be important if you're building a fleet up to a certain point limit. Your mass, how much armour it's got in thickness, the component damage reduction, base crew complement, vulnerability of the crew based on any penetrating shots, whether they might get injured, the structural integrity of the vessel overall, and how easy it is to identify on things like electronic warfare, radar, that kind of thing, and what kind of signature it gives off and what radius in meters squared. In this case, the base signature is 6,281.8 meters squared. We then get our manning, basically the maximum crew here and the current number of crew. Currently there are 20 for the command bridge and 20 for the engineering sections. Propulsion, what drive you're currently using and all of its stats. In this case, the default is 20 meters a second, linear thrust 900 mn. I'm sorry, I don't know that one. Acceleration time 17.9 seconds, so just off 18 seconds. Your angular thrust and your turn rate. Most important one here though is power. How much your reactor currently puts out up to a maximum limit. A lot of equipment will use up this power, which you'll see in a second, and any of the currently equipped items. So it comes with a default RS-35 frontline radar with all of its different bits and bobs, where you can see its maximum range of detection, the type of signature it sends out or detects, the radiated power, its gain, aperture size. It's all very, very intuitive once you get used to how a lot of the systems work, but it's kind of cool. And then a communication system, which is useful for when you want to communicate information that your radar may have detected to other ships within the fleet or friendlies. So, if we wanted to... Well, the first thing we want to do, we want to get a gun on this thing. Now, these are hardpoints, which are all listed here as mountings. You get different sizes, 3x4x5, up to up to like 4x12x4. And you can get little tiny ones, 2x2x2s. And different weapons will be able to fit inside these different slots. So the biggest one we want to put in this thing, if we scroll down, is going to be here in the spinal weapons section. And we could have a mass driver. You get a little bit of a description there, what it is, what it does, hit points again, damage reduction, how much weight it adds to the ship, which is important here. It'll affect things like your overall speed and the such. And more importantly, its power draw. Now, we can just about fit this if I install. We can see that we've gone up to 4,000 of our 4,700 kilowatts. About 85% of our power is now just being used in total throughout all the components on the ship, a large amount of it from this mass driver. We could have installed a beam cannon, but they take 3,000 kilowatts, which would actually put us over. If I was to install that, you now get a warning that we don't have enough power and we don't have enough crew. So we can fix both of those problems. But if we go back to the mass driver for now, it's still telling us we don't have enough crew and we don't have any ammo. As you can see, it goes from 50 to 55. We need gunners, 15 in total. So to solve that problem, we go to compartment, and let's see, let's pick this one down here. Now this is all of your locations where you can have different components added to the ship. But if we want crew, we want a berthing, which will add, I believe it's an extra 70 odd crew. Yeah, 122 is now our maximum, so we solved our crew problem. But what about our ammunition? Well, we go to another component, and let's see if we pick this one that's behind the gun. We want to scroll down, and we can have two types of magazine. A bulk magazine has its own stats. It can be damaged like any component in the ship. It has its own weight, and a probability of a catastrophic event, i.e. if the ammo gets hit, what's the chance of it exploding? There's a 10% chance the ammo will cook off. A reinforced magazine reduces this by 4%, has a tiny negligible amount of power draw, but it has more hit points, better damage reduction, as you can see. There's 25 there, 40 there, weighs a little bit more. But if we were just to go with, you know, basic, it's a bulk magazine, in this theory we're running a ship that's going to be sitting back and firing huge slugs of metal at targets. Okay. So we need to put this ammo in. So once you add ammo from a magazine, it always appears here. You click the plus, and any weapon ammunition type that's required will usually appear on this list. Since we only have one weapon, that's the only one that appears. So we click, and then we can put in this bar here will fill. A single click will add a single shot, which is obviously very labor intensive. So what we want to do is shift and click, and that adds 100 at a time, and there we go. We now have 960 rounds of mass drive ammo. Probably far more than the ship would ever fire in a match, but who cares, right? We're just showing this off. So we've basically, at this point, that's the ship. You could just like copy and paste this and have a whole fleet of mass drive equipped vessels that would then, as soon as they see a target, as long as it's at a decent range, they can start pumping metal across space at them, and hey, if you get enough lucky hits, you'll pen and do some decent damage. But if we wanted to add more, which we could, we still have 700 watts of power that we can play around with, so we could add some extra bits and pieces to the vessel. What if it gets attacked by, I don't know, missiles? Well, we might want to go to one of our other components, say one of these side mounts, and find a PDT weapon, point defense, which there are a few options. You've got basically a Gatling PDT, like you see in things like the Expanse, a rebound PDT, which I believe is the one that fires, I think this is the flak version, and then there's the Aurora PDT, which is a huge power draw because it's basically a laser AMS system. So if we just want bog standard Mark 20 Defender PDTs, it's as it says, it's high rate of fire and accuracy. It's not effective against warships though, so don't expect to actually do any damage. But let's just plop one of them in that side, and we'll get in another one on this side. We can see that we're up to 93% of our power draw, and you can see the area. This yellow dotted line is the area of the angle and rotation that the PDT can protect. So from both sides, it can shoot directly ahead of the ship, directly behind the ship, out to either side and above. However, it's not going to be able to protect the ship from below or from above, so that's a trade-off. If you want to do that, you can. However, PDTs need ammo, so we would have to find another. Let's see if we find another little component. This one inside seems like a good one. So let's see. Can we put a magazine in here? Not every location inside can be used for ammo, you see, so you also have to be aware different component sizes and stuff, so we may have to use one of these small ones. Here we go. So we could have a reinforced magazine. It's only 10 kilowatt draw, and in here we could have our 20mm slug ballistic rounds for our PDTs, and you can have a lot of PDT ammo, as you can see. I'm adding hundreds at a time, and that green bar is barely moving. So if we wanted to, we can also shift control, and we can add 1,000 at a time. So, I mean, if we just went crazy, let's just have 10,000 rounds, yeah? 10,000 rounds of PDT. That's 5,000 rounds for each gun. Probably, again, more than it actually needs to survive. We can see that our weight, by the way, has gone up. Our top speed is still 20. It's not too bad. We can see our integrity rating is slowly, as it says, the integrity rating is how safe the components are from damage. Lots of empty space means less structural members to absorb damage and protect mounts, compartments, and modules. A ship with a majority of its component slots filled will have the full protection of the hull's damage reduction value, while a mostly empty hull will not. So there's sort of a trade-off. You want to put more stuff in the ship to make sure that it's big, it's bulky, it's heavy, and it can absorb more of the impact, but obviously you run the risk of losing more equipment every time you get hit. But we're not finished yet. Let's see. We've still got a little bit of power. We've got this large top mount and a bottom mount here. So we could, for instance, give it a backup weapon. So if we went for this VLS-216 launcher, which is a size 2 missile launcher, install that. We're still within our power limit. You can see the missile launcher up here. This missile launcher comes with its own capacity, and this is where we can see the different types of missile available. The SGM-206 Thunderhead. As it says, upon reaching the following waypoint, the Thunderhead will activate its onboard radar and actively guide itself into the nearest target. However, the missile cannot turn back should it lose that target. Basically, this is one that you can give waypoints to. So you can decide how the missile will travel first before its final waypoint, and then it will activate an onboard scanner which will find the target and guide itself toward it, provided it doesn't get jammed. The Squall missile, on the other hand, is a home-on, jam, or anti-radiation cruise missile designed to guide itself directly onto a warship that's deploying sensor jammers. This is good if you expect to encounter enemies that are going to be using this kind of equipment, because Squall missiles will find that signal and home in on it. Hurricanes, on the other hand, is a command-guided cruise missile steered onto target by the launching ship. It can even correct its path back onto a target. However, because a target is selected directly, these missiles cannot be sent on waypoints. Basically, that's the type of missile that you lock on, you tell it to fire, and it tries to hit that as best it can. And finally, the Gale, semi-active radar homing missile, homes on illumination signals provided by another ship. So basically, if you have one of your ships, or say another player, their ship is painting a target, the Gale missiles are the best for that, because they will home in on the location of the painted illuminator, and it will fly onto that. The missiles in this game are incredibly effective, and it's kind of a beautiful thing to see the swarms go out there and then seeing all the impacts. If we wanted to say this ship might encounter, so let's just say I'm building this thing to encounter an opponent who I think is going to be using a lot of jamming equipment, so I'm just going to go and load it up completely with squalls on that gun. Now we have a bottom listed one, so we could also equip a cannon if we wanted. It's not that much of a power draw, different size of cannon that we could equip on there, or we could equip it with something that's a bit more effective. We could have an antenna system for communications, although they can be a bit of a power draw. We could have an electronic warfare system. Some of these can get very powerful in terms of power draw, but they're incredibly effective because electronic warfare in Nebulous is an important part of the gameplay. You need to be able to have the drop on the enemy, so hiding your location, masking your trail, being able to make it so that the enemy can't as easily find you and spot you and then lock on and kill you. It's an important part. Cats in the background, do apologise. You also may need better sensors to punch through some of this, like Pinard electric support modules, which will basically is a radar type signal, whereas a bullseye radar will be a turret fire control that allows the equipped warship to lock onto tracks, providing extreme accuracy for weaponry, highly effective with precision and command-guided weapons. This is the kind of thing you want to use for cannons, missile systems, that kind of thing. Whereas the Pinard version might be one that's better at doing, I think it's called a burn through, which will allow you to basically scrub through a jamming wall and help you find the targets rather than all of the trash signals that are being put out there. So in this case, let's see. Maybe I want to let's have a look around, see what we got. Maybe we want a masquerade signal booster, for instance. Might make it more difficult for them to detect. Amplifies the electronic signature of its host warship, making it appear as a large, appealing target. So maybe not that one. We're supposed to be running. This is supposed to be something that's built like a sniper, so maybe we want like an interruption jammer. Yeah, it says it's an effective screening tool, likes the high power extended range for directional communications, that kind of thing. See, there's like hang-up jammers that are more directional, so you'd aim that in the direction that you want to jam the enemy ships because you know where they are at that point. There's a few different options, aren't there? A few different options. In the end, you know what? I might just go with allows hosts, etc. Yeah, okay, we'll go with this one, the Pinard. Right, so we'll install that. We're slightly over on power. Not great, but not too bad. So let's find a compartment that we haven't used yet. Let's see if we can improve that power draw situation that we're in. Here we go, might be one of these modules back here. Here we go. So if we need a little bit of boost in the juice, then we can get a power plant, in this case the FR3300 microreactor. Now I'm sure future updates to the game will add lots or you know, more option in things like power plants and sensors and engineering and all these kind of good stuff, but at the moment this is what you got to work with. So we want a bit of extra power, bam, there we go. So now we've got a lot of extra power that we can play with. We can equip more items onto the ship. So since we've got some extra power, we now maybe want to put an extra, say, a rebound PDT on the front, so they draw a bit more power, but we can slap that in there. So now we've got a bit of missile coverage. From there we could even go in and add some flat rounds, because we've got plenty of room inside there. We can add 1,000 flat rounds onto the front, so it's got a bit of extra missile defense. Other compartments though that we need is damage control, because you are eventually going to have an issue where your ships are going to take hits and damage is going to go through and it's going to knock out some of your equipment. So the basic one is a large damage control locker. As it says here, it has repair teams, so the number of teams that can move around the ship actively to repair equipment. But the most important number you want to take into account is restores provided. If a piece of equipment inside your ship goes grey on the damage screen, it means it's knocked out. And that's the point where your repair team can move and they'll use one of these 2 restores to basically get that system back up and running. So you have to take that into account when you're picking the type of damage control setups. So you'll want like different damage control lockers. The large one is the most commonly seen because it's got the best repair team numbers and restores provided. A rapid version means that you've got the fastest team, but you only get 1, the flying repair team, but 0 restores. This is good for when you need them to be able to get around larger vessels like a Solomon or a heavy cruiser, for instance, and more rapidly repair items before they get knocked out. A reinforced locker means that the damage resistance is increased. You don't get as many repair teams, but they still provide a restoration. Small damage control locker is basically the reinforced one but with less health, and these two, the damage control and workshop, help to boost their effectiveness. A damage control central, i.e. is there's a group of people on the ship coordinating the repair effort, so it increases the movement speed of the repair teams and the speed of the repair, and small workshops allow them to repair the ship a bit quicker as well, under the pretense that they've got spare parts that they can build. But in this case we'll just slap a large damage control locker in there. That will help keep the ship up and running. Other modules we can add to the ship can be things like supplementary radio amplifiers, which will increase the transmission power of its communication systems. Launcher deluge system. Basically, it fills the entire launcher with water to stop the spread of fire. Good systems to prevent more damage spreading quickly. Magazine sprinklers to stop your rounds from exploding inside the ship. Fail safes to prevent reactors from going critical. Reinforced thruster nozzles, which will reduce the probability of flank damage occurring to your engines. Energy regulators, which will obviously reduce, as it says here, reduces the reload time of your energy weapons and beam weapons. Good for the rail, basically the laser cannon or the railgun. Small reactive booster, which will increase your radar signature, but you know, make your power plant more efficient, essentially, which I think actually gives you a bit back on your power usage. Signature Scrambler, which is a good one to use if you need to make it more difficult for an enemy player to identify you from range. You got all kinds. There's a few here that are really, really good, and you can allow you to kind of very slightly alter your playstyle using some of these buffs and reductions, and some of them don't cost a lot in power, others are very costly power-wise, so it's that balance, and it's really cool about this game. So we've got these kind of bonuses, but we'll leave some of those for now. Don't know if there's anything else really to show off. I mean, as essentially we have a vessel that you could take into a game. I wouldn't say it'd be the best. There are people who've been playing this online a lot, and I'm sure that they could do a lot better with this. But this is to show off the different functions. Oh, propulsion is a good one to show. So the standard drive, it shows you the amount of power it gives you a certain amount of power anyway. The reinforced drive just means it's got a higher damage resistance and a lot more health, whereas there are several different types of sub-drives. The whiplash drive is better for overall power, gives you better top speed, but it increases the chance of certain damage probabilities. You lose turn rate and angular thrust. Dragonfly drive, on the other hand, reduces your top speed slightly, but increases your turn rate. Raider drive increases your linear thrust, but your radar synergy goes up. Prowler drive is your radar signature is reduced, but your top speed and linear thrust and angular thrust are all massively reduced. So it's again different trade-offs. What type of drive do you want to perform different roles? You're right there, Kitty. Smacking into the desk there. There's all kinds of noise going on in the background. I do apologise, especially this Hebe one here. So apologies for the cat. Right. Let's see if there's anything else. We could probably, you know, just slap a rebound turret on the top there. So this ship is now pretty protected from incoming missiles. It can return some of its own. It's got a electronic booster there. It's got its main gun on the front. I would say the only thing I'd probably add at this point is maybe if we can have it on here, a gun plotting sensor, which reduces the spread of the shots, and possibly a analysis index there that would increase the chance of us being able to detect enemies. Oh, actually, no, I couldn't have that. I've just realised because I don't have enough berthings for the crew, so we will, if we take that off, I believe. Yeah, remove, there we go. Yeah, now we're under our crew limit. There we go, that's fine. That's one angry cat out there in that room. She's not happy. Alright, so the last thing I'll show you, under this deluge of feline verbal abuse, is the naming thing up here. So it randomly produces a name whenever you make a new ship, but if you click the little pencil, you can name it whatever you want. So you know, so we can name it Angry Cat, for instance, if we want, and that would then come up as Angry Cat, and you can see that it's now called the CRS Angry Cat on the side of the ship. But we could also let it randomly pick a name. We could generate it. Bane, Idiot. There you go, that's a good one, is it? The CRS Idiot. You can change the pattern to this. You can have it so it just selects nouns. You can have it so it's first name, last name, and initials. You can have it use adjective nouns. You can have it using the adjective in a noun, noun of a first name, noun, adjective, noun, and noun. There's lots of nouns. So if you select them all, and then you can click confirm, we could just generate name, Risen Lab, Chump, Plank of Rebecca, the 60-week, Shelf Usual, Begin Mauve, the Jazzy Dome. So you get some crazy names out of it. You can even change the whole number, so it would be DD, DDG, DDE if you want. Change the number there on the side. You can give it a call sign, which is what you'd use when you're running your fleet, so you can more quickly find a specific vessel. And you can just confirm that. So now it's called the CRS Roost. And yeah, that would be how you'd build a ship, and it's the same basic principles for any vessel in the game, whatever you want to create. So if you just wanted to, I don't know, a blank hull, if I pick a Solomon class, I mean, outside of the fact that this thing is a beast, which is called the Wormy Mao, or the Wormy Mo, randomly, it's the exact same principles. You've just got a lot more space to work with and a lot more weight. So yeah, it's really cool. I honestly think this game's got legs. It could really go. The only other thing to do now would just be, I guess, to you could save the fleet, and we could just call it. Let's see. We'll just create a new one and just call it the Mass Driver. And then we can come back to this fleet anytime and add more ships to it. And then now that it's saved, it's a blueprint that I can. I should just be able to load from, if I remember correctly. I can just duplicate the ship, and then you can have 2 or 3 of them, however you want to do it. So it's got some nice options there. But if we go back to the main menu, the last thing I can show you is how you would alter the colour of your ship. So up in the top right, it'll have your Steam name, and that's where you come up with your hull paint colours. And it's dead easy. It's a very simple RGB system. You just drag the marker around wherever you want. If you've got a specific colour code you want to enter, you can. You can go through the entire spectrum. You can have bright pink ships if you want, or blue ships, red, whatever. And then you can. There's a few badges, which there is a way that I believe there is another video out there by another user who's shown you how you can add your own logo to the side of your ships as well. So you can have a few. There's the Alliance, Roundel, Shield, ANSC, D section, OSP, Constellation. So I think the OSP might be one of the other factions are working on, though. If one of the devs is watching this, please let me know what the other factions are supposed to be. You know, I'm not asking for any inside intel. Ship name prefix is where you can change it to whatever you want there, and then you can confirm, and that just changes the colour. Oh, there's the bro coming in. God, this video is going to be quite busy. So we've got, yeah, that's just your rank there. Just ignore that. That's for multiplayer. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. The first one had a crap sound balance, and this one's got more shit sound balance.
What's going on?
I'm just finishing this video. I'm gonna finish it now.